Chapter 14. Mind Monkey returns to the right. The 6 robbers vanish from sight. I don't remember there's 6 robbers, but we'll find out. Mind is the Buddha, and the Buddha is mind. Both mind and Buddha are important things. If you perceive there's neither mind nor thing, yours is the Dharmakaya of true mind. The Dharmakaya has no shape or form. One pearl-like radiance, holding myriad things. The bodiless body is the body true. Pardon me. And real form is that form which has no form. There's no form, no void, no emptiness. No coming, no leaving, no parinamana. No contrast, no sameness, no being or non-being. No giving, no taking, no hopeful craving. Light efficacious is in and out the same. Buddha's whole realm is in a grain of sand. A grain of sand the chiliocosm holds. One mind or body's like 10,000 things. To know this, you must grasp the no-mind spell. Unclogged and taintless is the karma pure. Don't do the many acts of good or ill. This is the true submission to Sakyamuni, which I'm sure I've pronounced incorrectly. There's weird diacritical action going on. We were telling you about Tripitaka and Bokeh, who, in fear and alarm, again heard the cry, "My master has come!" The various houseboys said, "It must be the old ape in that stone box beneath the mountain who is shouting." It's he, said the guardian. Tripitaka asked, "Who is this old ape?" The ancient name of this mountain, said the guardian, was the Mountain of 5 Phases. It was changed to the Mountain of the 2 Frontiers as a result of our great Tang ruler's western campaigns to secure his empire. A few years ago, I heard from my elders that during the time when Wang Mang usurped the throne of the Han Emperor, this mountain fell from heaven with a divine monkey clamped beneath it. He feared neither heat nor cold, and he took neither food nor drink. He had been watched and guarded by the spirits of the earth, who fed him iron balls when he was hungry and juices of bronze when he was thirsty. He has lasted from that time until now, surviving both cold and hunger. He must be the one who is making all this noise. Don't be afraid, elder. Let's go down the mountain to take a look. Tripitaka had to agree and led his horse down the mountain. They had traveled only a few miles when they came upon a stone box in which there was indeed a monkey who, with his head sticking out, was waving his hands wildly and crying, "Master, why have you taken so long to get here? Welcome, welcome! Get me out, and I'll protect you on your way to the western heaven." The priest went forward to look more closely at him. How does he look, you ask? Well, a pointed mouth and hollow cheeks, 2 diamond pupils and fiery eyes. Lichens had piled on his head. Wisteria grew in his ears. By his temples was more green grass than hair. Beneath his chin, moss instead of a beard. With mud on his brow and earth in his nose, he looked most desperate. His fingers coarse, and calloused palms were caked in filth and dirt. Luckily, his eyes could still roll about, and the apish tongue articulate, though in speech he had great ease. His body he could not move. He was the great sage son of 500 years ago. Today his ordeal ends. He leaves heaven's net. Undeniably a courageous person, that guardian Liu went up to the creature and pulled away some of the grass at his temples and some of the moss beneath his chin. He asked, "What do you have to say?" "Nothing to you," said the monkey, "but ask that master to come up here. I have a question for him." "What's your question?" asked Tripitaka. "Are you someone sent by the great king of the land of the east to go seek scriptures in the western heaven?" asked the monkey. "I am," said Tripitaka. "Why do you ask?" "I am the great sage, equal to heaven," said the monkey, who greatly disturbed the heavenly palace 500 years ago. "Because of my sin of rebellion and disobedience, I was imprisoned here by the Buddha. Some time ago, a certain Bodhisattva Guanyin had received the decree of Buddha to go to the land of the East in quest of a scripture pilgrim. I asked her to give me some help, and she persuaded me not to engage again in violence. I was told to believe in the law of the Buddha and faithfully to protect the scripture pilgrim on his way. There you go, sure thing. Where was I? On his way to... I was told to believe in the law of the Buddha and faithfully to protect the scripture pilgrim on his way to worship Buddha in the West, for there would be a goodly reward reserved for me when such merit is achieved. I have therefore been maintaining my vigilance night and day, waiting for the Master to come to rescue me. I'm willing to protect you in your quest of scriptures and become your disciple. When Tripitaka heard these words, he was filled with delight and said, though you have this good intention, thanks to the Bodhisattva's instruction of entering our Buddhist fold, I have neither axe nor drill. How can I free you? No need for axe or drill, said the monkey. If you are willing to rescue me, I'll be able to get out. Tripitaka said, I'm willing, but how can you get out? On top of this mountain, said the monkey, there is a tag stamped with the golden letters of our Buddha Tathagata. Go up there and lift up the tag. Then I'll come out. Tripitaka agreed and turned to Bouquet, imploring him, Guardian, come with me up the mountain. Do you think he's speaking the truth? Asked Bouquet. It's the truth, the monkey shouted. I dare not lie. Bouquet had no choice but to call his houseboys to lead the horses. He himself supported Tripitaka with his hands, and they again started up the tall mountain. Tugging at creepers and vines, they finally arrived at the highest peak, where they beheld 10,000 shafts of golden light and 1,000 folds of hollowed air. There was a huge square slab of stone, on which was taped a seal with the golden letters, Om Mani Padme Hum. Tripitaka approached the stone and knelt down. He looked at the golden letters and kowtowed several times to the stone. Then, facing the west, he prayed, Your disciple Chen Xuanzang was specifically commanded to seek scriptures from you. If it is so ordained that he should be my disciple, let me lift up those golden letters so that the divine monkey may find release and join me at the Spirit Mountain. If he is not predestined to be my disciple, if he is only a cruel monster trying to deceive me and to bring misfortune to our enterprise, let me not lift up this tape. That seems like a good policy to have, though, don't you think? If the gods are actually paying attention, you say, hey, if it's your destiny for me to succeed at cheating, please let me succeed at cheating. Anyway, he kowtowed again after he had prayed. Going forward, with the greatest of ease, he took down the golden letters. A fragrant wind swept by immediately and blew the tag out of his hands into the air as a voice called out, I am the prison guard of the great sage. Yeah, I'm with you there. Today his ordeal is completed, and my colleagues and I are returning this seal to Tathagata. Tripitaka, Bouquet, and their followers were so terrified that they fell on the ground and bowed toward the sky. How do you do that? Do you do that on your back or something? Anyway, they then descended from the tall mountain and came back to the stone box, saying to the monkey, The tag has been lifted. You may come out. Delighted, the monkey said, Master, you had better walk away from here so that I can come out. I don't want to frighten you. That sounds nice. When Bouquet heard this, he led Tripitaka and the rest of the company to walk back eastward for 5 or 6 miles. Again, they heard the monkey yelling, Further still! Further still! So Tripitaka and the others went still further until they had left the mountain. All at once came a crash so loud that it was as if the mountain was cracking and the earth splitting wide open. Everyone was awestruck. The next moment, the monkey was already in front of Tripitaka's horse, completely naked. He knelt down and cried, Master, I'm out! Because he was really furious. I probably would have kicked the crap out of that cage too, come to think of it. He bowed 4 times towards Tripitaka. And then, jumping up, he said to Bouquet respectfully, I thank elder brother for taking the trouble of escorting my master. I'm grateful also for your shaving the grass from my face." Having thanked him, he went at once to put the luggage in order so it could be tied onto the horse's back. When the horse saw him, its torso slackened and its legs stiffened. In fear and trembling, it could hardly stand up. For you see, that monkey had been a banned horse plague who used to look after dragon horses in the celestial stables. His authority was such that horses of this world inevitably would fear him when they saw him. When Tripitaka saw that the monkey was truly a person of good intentions, someone who truly resembled those who had embraced the Buddhist faith, he called to him, "Disciple, what is your surname?" "My surname is Sun," said the Monkey King. "Let me give you a religious name," said Tripitaka, "so that it will be convenient to address you." "This noble thought of the master is deeply appreciated," said the Monkey King, "but I already have a religious name. I'm called Sun Wukong." It exactly fits the emphasis of our denomination," said Tripitaka, delighted. "But look at you. You look rather like a little Duta. Let me give you a nickname and call you Pilgrim Son. How's that?" "Good, good," said Wukong. So from then on, he was also called Pilgrim's Son. When Bouquet saw that Pilgrim's Son was definitely preparing to leave, he turned to speak respectfully to Tripitaka, saying, "Elder, you are fortunate to have made an excellent disciple here. Congratulations! This person should be most fit to accompany you. I must take leave of you now." Bowing to thank him, Tripitaka said, "I cannot thank you enough for all your kindness. Please be certain to thank your dear mother and wife when you return to your house. I have caused you all great inconvenience, and I shall thank you again on my way back." Bouquet returned his salutation, and they parted. We shall now tell you about Pilgrim's Son, who asked Tripitaka to mount his horse. He himself, stark naked, carried the luggage on his back and led the way. In a little while, as they were passing the mountain of two frontiers, they saw a fierce tiger approaching, growling and waving its tail. Tripitaka, sitting on his horse, became alarmed, but Pilgrim, walking at the side of the road, was delighted. "Don't be afraid, master." Let's just wait till that drama resolves itself outside. Okay, I think it did. "Don't be afraid, master," he said, "for he's here to present me with some clothes." He put down the luggage and took a tiny needle out of his ears. One wave of it facing the wind, and it became an iron rod with the thickness of a rice bowl. He held it in his hands and laughed, saying, "I haven't used this treasure for over 500 years. Today I'm taking it out to bag a little garment for myself." Look at him! He strode right up to the tiger, crying, "Cursed beast! Where do you think you're going?" Crouching low, the tiger lay prone on the dust and dared not move. Pilgrim's Son aimed the rod at its head, and one stroke caused its brains to burst out like 10,000 red petals of peach blossoms, and the teeth to fly out like so many pieces of white jade. He exploded the tiger's skull. So terrified was our Chen Xuanzang that he fell off his horse. Oh God, he cried, biting his fingers. When Guardian Liu overcame that striped tiger the other day, he had to do battle with him for almost half a day. But without even fighting today, Sun Wukong reduces the tiger to pulp with one blow of his rod. How true is the saying, "For the strong, there's always someone stronger." "Master," said Pilgrim as he returned dragging the tiger, "sit down for a while, and wait till I have stripped him of his clothes. When I put them on, we'll start off again." "Where does he have any clothes?" asked Tripitaka. "Don't mind me, master," said Pilgrim. "I have my own plan." Dear Monkey King! He pulled off one strand of hair and blew a mouthful of magic breath onto it, crying, "Change!" It changed into a sharp, curved knife with which he ripped open the tiger's chest. Slitting the skin straight down, he then ripped it off in one piece. He chopped away the paws and the head, cutting the skin into one square piece. He picked it up and tried it for size, and then said, "It's a bit too large. One piece can be made into two." He took the knife again and cut it again into two pieces. He put one of those away and wrapped the other around his waist. Ripping off a strand of rattan from the side of the road, he firmly tied on this covering for the lower part of his body. He made a skirt out of a tiger skin. "Master," he said, let's go! Let's go! When we reach someone's house, we will have sufficient time to borrow some threads and a needle to sew this up." He gave his iron rod a squeeze, and it changed back into a tiny needle, which he stored in his ear. Throwing the luggage on his back, he asked his master to mount the horse. As they set off, the monk asked him, "Wukong, how is it that the iron rod you used to slay the tiger has disappeared?" "Master," said Pilgrim, laughing, "you have no idea what that rod of mine really is. It was acquired originally from the Dragon Palace in the Eastern Ocean. It's called the Precious Divine Iron for Guarding the Heavenly River. And another name of it is the Compliant Golden Hooped Rod. At the time when I revolted against heaven, I depended on it a great deal, for it could change into any shape or form, great or small, according to my wish. Just now, I had it changed into a tiny embroidery needle, and it's stored that way in my ear. When I need it, I'll take it out." Secretly pleased by what he heard, Tripitaka asked another question. "Why did that tiger become completely motionless when it saw you? How do you explain the fact that it simply let you hit it?" "To tell you the truth," said Wukong, "even a dragon, let alone this tiger, would behave itself if it had seen me. I, old monkey, possess the ability to subdue dragons and tame tigers, and the power to overturn rivers and stir up oceans. I can look at a person's countenance and discern his character. I can listen merely to sounds and discover the truth. If I want to be big, I can fill the universe. If I want to be small, I can be smaller than a piece of hair. In sum, I have boundless ways of transformation and incalculable means of becoming visible or invisible. What's so strange, then, about my skinning a tiger? Wait till we come to some real difficulties. You'll see my talents then." When Tripitaka heard these words, he was more than relieved than ever, and urged his horse forward. So master and disciple, the two of them, chatted as they journeyed, and soon the sun sank in the west. You see, soft glow of the fading twilight, and distant clouds slowly returning. On every hill swells the chorus of birds, flocking to shelter in the woods. The wild beasts, in couples and pairs, in packs and groups, they trek homeward. The new moon, hook-like, breaks the spreading gloom, with 10,000 stars luminous. Still can't get over Monkey exploding that tiger's skull, though, you know what I mean? Pilgrim said, "Master, let's move along, for it's getting late. There are dense clumps of trees over there, and I suppose there must be a house or village, too. Let's hurry over there and ask for lodging." Urging his horse forward, Tripitaka went straight up to a house and dismounted. Pilgrim threw down the bag and went to the door, crying, "Open up! Open up!" An old man came to the door, leaning on a cane. When he pulled open the creaking door, he was panic-stricken by the hideous appearance of Pilgrim, who had the tiger skin around his waist and looked like a thunder god. He began to shout, "A ghost! A ghost!" and other such foolish words. Tripitaka drew near and took hold of him, saying, "Old patron, don't be afraid. He is my disciple, not a ghost." Only when he looked up and saw the handsome features of Tripitaka did the old man stand still. "Which temple are you from?" he asked, "and why are you bringing such a nasty character to my door?" "I am a poor monk from the Tang court," said Tripitaka, "on my way to seek scriptures from Buddha in the western heaven. We were passing through here, and it was getting late. That is why we made so bold as to approach your great mansion and beg you for a night's lodging. We plan to leave tomorrow before it's light, and we beseech you not to deny our request." "Though you may be a Tang man," the old man said, "that nasty character is certainly no Tang man." "Old fellow," cried Wukong in a loud voice, "you really can't see me, can you? You really can't see, can you? The Tang man is my master, and I am his disciple. Of course, I'm no sugar man or honey man. I am the great sage, equal to heaven. The members of your family should recognize me. Moreover, I have seen you before." Where have you seen me before?" "When you were young," said Wukong, "didn't you gather firewood before my eyes? Didn't you haul vegetables before my face?" The old man said, "That's nonsense. Where did you live? And where was I that I should have gathered firewood and hauled vegetables before your eyes?" "Only my son would talk nonsense," said Wukong. "You really don't recognize me. Take a closer look. I am the great sage in the stone box of this mountain of two frontiers." I saw what you did there, G, and I think I approve, but unofficially. "You do look somewhat like him," said the old man, half recognizing the figure before him. "But how did you get out?" Wukong thereupon gave a thorough account of how the Bodhisattva had converted him, and how she had asked him to wait for the Tang monk to lift the tag for his deliverance. After that, the old man bowed deeply and invited Tripitaka in, calling for his aged wife and his children to come out and meet the guests. When he told them what had happened, everyone was delighted. Tea was then served, after which the old man asked Wukong, "How old are you, great sage?" "And how old are you?" asked Wukong. "I have lived foolishly for 130 years, said the old man. "You are still my great-great-great-great-grandson," said Pilgrim. "I can't remember when I was born, but I have spent over 500 years underneath this mountain." Yes, said the old man. "I remember my great-grandfather saying that when this mountain dropped from the sky, it had a divine ape clamped underneath it. To think that you should have waited until now for your freedom. When I saw you in my childhood, you had grass on your head and mud on your face. But I wasn't afraid of you then. Now, without mud on your face and grass on your head, you seem a bit thinner. And with that huge piece of tiger skin draped around your waist, what great difference is there between you and a demon?" When the members of his family heard this remark, they all roared with laughter. Being a rather decent fellow, that old man at once ordered a vegetarian meal to be prepared. Afterwards, Wukong said, What is your family name?" "Our humble family," said the old man, "goes by the name of Chen." When Tripitaka heard this, he left his seat to salute him, saying, "Old patron, you and I share the same illustrious clan." "Master," said Pilgrim. "Hi, Montreth. Your surname is Tang. How can it be that you and he share the same illustrious ancestors?" "You missed the monkey literally exploding a tiger's skull. Literally." Tripitaka said, "The surname of my secular family is also Chen, and I come from the Zhuxian village in the Hongnong district of Haizu in the Tang domain. My religious name is Chen Xuanzang. Because our great Tang Emperor Taizong made me his brother by decree, I took the name Tripitaka and used Tang as my surname. Hence, I'm called the Tang monk." The old man was very pleased to hear that they had the same surname. "Old Chen," said Pilgrim, "I must trouble your family some more, for I haven't taken a bath for 500 years. Please go and boil some water so that my master and I, his disciples... my master and I, his disciple, can wash ourselves. We shall thank you all the more when we leave." The old man at once gave the order for water to be boiled and basins to be brought in with several lamps. As master and disciple sat before the lamps after their baths, Pilgrim said, "Old Chen, I still have one more favor to ask of you. Can you lend me a needle and some thread?" Of course, replied the old man. One of the Amahs was told to fetch the needle and thread, which were then handed over to Pilgrim. Pilgrim, you see, had the keenest sight. He noticed that Tripitaka had taken off a shirt made of white cloth and had not put it on again after his bath. Pilgrim grabbed it and put it on himself. Taking off his tiger skin, he sewed the hems together using a horse face fold and fastened it round his waist again with a strand of rattan. He paraded in front of his master, saying, "How does old monkey look today compared with the way he looked yesterday?" "Very good," said Tripitaka. "Very good. Now you do look like a pilgrim. If you don't think that the shirt is too worn or old, you may keep it." "Thanks for the gift," said Wukong respectfully. He then went out to find some hay to feed the horse, after which master and disciple both retired with the old man and his household. The next morning, Wukong arose and woke up his master to get ready for the journey. Tripitaka dressed himself while Wukong put their luggage in order. They were about to leave when the old man brought in washing water and some vegetarian food, and so they did not set out until after the meal. Tripitaka rode his horse with Pilgrim leading the way. They journeyed by day and rested by night, taking food and drink according to their needs. Yeah, basically he sort of made a skirt out of half a tiger skin, and he put the other half away for reasons. Tripitaka rode his horse, with Pilgrim leading the way. They journeyed by day and rested by night, taking food and drink according to their needs. Soon it was early winter. You see, frost-blighted maples and wizened trees, few verdant pine and cypress still on the ridge. Budding plum blossoms spread their gentle scent. The brief warm day, a little spring gift, but dying lilies yield to the lush wild tea. A cold bridge struggles against an old tree's bough, and gurgling water flows in the winding brook. Gray clouds, snow-laden, float throughout the sky. The strong cold wind tears at the sleeve. How does one bear this chilly might of night? Master and disciple had traveled for some time, when suddenly 6 men jumped out from the side of the road with much clamor, all holding long spears and short swords, sharp blades and strong bows. "Stop, monk," they cried. "Leave your horse and drop your bag at once, and we'll let you pass on alive." Tripitaka was so terrified that his soul left him and his spirit fled. He fell from his horse, unable to utter a word. But Pilgrim lifted it up, saying, "Don't be alarmed, master. It's nothing really. Just some people coming to give us clothes and a travel allowance." Oh, I like that. "Wukong," said Tripitaka, "you must be a little hard of hearing. They told us to leave our bag and our horse, and you want to ask them for clothes and a travel allowance?" "You just stay here and watch our belongings," said Pilgrim, "and let Old Monkey confront them. We'll see what happens." I had a bit of a, in my mind, it was the sort of the introductory scene of Terminator 2. Yeah, you guys nailed it. Tripitaka said, "Even a good punch is no match for a pair of fists, and 2 fists can't cope with 4 hands. There are 6 big fellows over there, and you are such a tiny person. How can you have the nerve to confront them?" As he has always been audacious, Pilgrim did not wait for further discussion. He walked forward with arms folded and saluted the 6 men, saying, "Sirs, for what reason are you blocking the path of this poor monk?" "We are kings of the highway," said the men, "philanthropic mountain lords. Our fame has long been known, though you seem to be ignorant of it. Leave your belongings at once, and you will be allowed to pass. If you but utter half a no, you'll be chopped to pieces." I have been also a great hereditary king and a mountain lord for centuries," said Pilgrim, "but I have yet to learn of your illustrious names." "So you really don't know," said one of them. Let's tell you then. One of us is named Eye That Sees and Delights. Another, Ear That Hears and Rages. Another, Nose That Smells and Loves. What a bandit name that one is. Another, Tongue That Tastes and Desires. Another, Mind That Perceives and Covets. And another, Body That Bears and Suffers. "You are nothing but 6 hairy brigands," said Wukong, laughing, who have failed to recognize in me a person who has left the family, your proper master. How dare you bar my way? Bring out the treasures you have stolen so that you and I can divide them into 7 portions. I'll spare you then." Hearing this, the robbers all reacted with rage and amusement, covetousness and fear, desire and anxiety. They rushed forward, crying, "You reckless monk! You haven't a thing to offer us, and yet you want us to share our loot with you?" Wielding spears and swords, they surrounded Pilgrim and hacked away at his head 70 or 80 times. Pilgrim stood in their midst and behaved as if nothing was happening. "What a monk!" said one of the robbers. "He really does have a hard head." Passably so," said Pilgrim, laughing. "But your hands must be getting tired from all that exercise. It's about time for old Monkey to take out a needle for a little entertainment." "This monk must be an acupuncture man in disguise," said the robber. "We're not sick. What's all this about using a needle?" Pilgrim reached into his ear and took out a tiny embroidery needle. One wave of it in the wind, and it became an iron rod with the thickness of a rice bowl. He held it in his hand, saying, "Don't run. Let old Monkey try his hand on you with this rod." The 6 robbers fled in all directions, but with great strides he caught up with them and rounded all of them up. He beat every one of them to death. Whoa, that's a bit cold. He beat every one of them to death, stripped them of their clothes, and seized their valuables. Then Pilgrim came back smiling broadly and said, "You may proceed now, master. Those robbers have been exterminated by old Monkey." That was a bit cold. "That's a terrible thing you have done," said Tripitaka. "They may have been strong men on the highway, but they would not have been sentenced to death even if they had been caught and tried. If you have such abilities, you should have chased them away. Why did you slay them all? How can you be a monk when you take life without cause? We who have left the family should keep ants out of harm's way when we sweep the floor, and put shades on lamps for the love of moths." How can you kill them just like that, without regard for black or white? You showed no mercy at all. It's a good thing that we are here in the mountains, where any further investigation will be unlikely. But suppose someone offends you when we reach a city, and you perpetrate violence again, hitting people indiscriminately with that rod of yours. Would I be able to remain innocent and get away scot-free? "Master," said Wukong, "if I hadn't killed them, they would have killed you." Tripitaka said, "As a priest, I would rather die than practice violence. If I were killed, there would only be one of me, but you have slaughtered 6 persons." Yes? I'm all right, thank you. "How can you justify that? If this matter were brought before a judge, and even if your old man were the judge, you certainly would not be able to justify your actions." Also, yeah, that staff is like anything short of a god. If it touches anything short of a god, it just kills them. "To tell you the truth, master," said Pilgrim, "when I, old Monkey, was king on Flower Fruit Mountain 500 years ago, I killed I don't know how many people. I would not have been a great sage equal to heaven if I had lived by what you are saying." "It's precisely because you had neither scruples nor self-control," said Tripitaka, "unleashing your waywardness on earth and spreading outrage in heaven, that you had to undergo this ordeal of 500 years. Now that you have entered the fold of Buddhism, if you still insist on practicing violence and indulge in the taking of life as before, you are not worthy to be a monk, nor can you go to the Western heaven. You're wicked! You're just too wicked!" Now this monkey had never in all his life been able to tolerate scolding. When he heard Tripitaka's persistent reprimand, he could not suppress the flames leaping up in his heart. "If that's what you think," he said, "if you think I'm not worthy to be a monk, nor can I go to the Western heaven, you needn't bother me further with your nagging. I'll leave and go back." Before Tripitaka had time to reply, Pilgrim was already so enraged that he leaped into the air, crying only, "Old Monkey's off!" Tripitaka quickly raised his head to look, but the monkey had already disappeared, trailed only by a swishing sound fading fast towards the east. Left by himself, the priest could only shake his head and sigh. "That fellow, he's so unwilling to be taught. I only said a few words to him. How could he vanish without a trace and go back like that?" Yeah. "Ubiquitous roughage." Dude. Well, well, well. It must be also that I am destined not to have a disciple or any other companion. For now, I couldn't even call him or locate him if I wanted to. I might as well go on by myself. So he was prepared to lay down his life and go to the west? That is correct. I cannot buy a better viewer. I'm not even going to try. So he was prepared to lay down his life and go toward the west, to be his own master and on none rely. The elder had little alternative but to pack up his bag and put it on the horse, which he did not even bother to mount. Holding his staff in one hand and the reins in the other, he set off sadly toward the west. He had not traveled far when he saw an old woman before him on the mountain road, holding a silk garment and a cap with a floral design. When Tripitaka saw her approach, he hastened to pull his horse aside for her to pass. "Elder, where do you come from?" asked the old woman, "and why are you walking here all by yourself?" Tripitaka replied, "Your child was sent by the great king of the land of the East to seek true scriptures from the living Buddha in the western heaven." "The Buddha of the West," said the old woman, "lives in the great temple of Thunderclap in the territory of India, and the journey there is 108,000 miles long. That's like a light second. You are going all by yourself, with neither a companion nor a disciple. How can you possibly think of going there?" "A few days ago," said Tripitaka, "I did pick up a disciple, a rather unruly and headstrong character. I scolded him a little, but he refused to be taught and disappeared." The old woman said, "I have here a silk shirt and a flower cap inlaid with gold, which used to belong to my son. He had been a monk for only 3 days, when unfortunately he died. I have just finished mourning him at the temple, where I was given these things by his master to be kept in his memory. Father, since you have a disciple, I'll give the shirt and the cap to you." "I'm most grateful for your lavish gift," said Tripitaka, "but my disciple has left. I dare not take them." "Where did he go?" asked the old woman. Tripitaka replied, "I heard a swishing sound, heading toward the east." "My home is not too far away in the east," said the old woman, "and he may be going there. I have a spell which is called the True Words for Controlling the Mind, or the Tight Fillet Spell. You must memorize it secretly, commit it firmly to your memory, and don't let anyone learn of it. I'll try to catch up with him and persuade him to come back and follow you. When he returns, give him the shirt and the cap to wear. And if he again refuses to obey you, recite the spell silently. He will not dare do violence or leave you again." On hearing these words, Tripitaka bowed his head to thank her. The old woman changed herself into a shaft of golden light and vanished toward the east. Well then Tripitaka realized that it was the Bodhisattva Guanyin who had taught him the true words. He hurriedly picked up a few pinches of earth with his finger and scattered them like incense, bowing reverently toward the east. He then took the shirt and the cap and hid them in his bag. Sitting beside the road, he began to recite the true words for controlling the mind. After a few times, he knew it thoroughly by heart. But we shall speak no more of him for the time being. Excuse me. I was wondering where the fillet was going to factor into this, so that was interesting. We now tell you about Wukong, who, having left his master, headed straight toward the Eastern Ocean with a single cloud somersault. He stopped his cloud, opened up a path in the water, and went directly to the Water Crystal Palace. Learning of his arrival, the Dragon King came out to welcome him. After they had exchanged greetings and sat down, the Dragon King said, "I heard recently that the ordeal of the great sage had been completed, and I apologize for not having congratulated you yet. I suppose that you have again taken occupancy in your immortal mountain and returned to the ancient cave." "I was so inclined," said Wukong, "but I became a monk instead." "What sort of a monk?" asked the Dragon King. "I was indebted to the Bodhisattva of South Sea," said Pilgrim, "who persuaded me to do good and seek the truth. I was to follow the Tang monk from the land of the east to go worship Buddha in the west. Since entering the fold of Buddhism, I was also given the name Pilgrim. That is indeed praiseworthy, said the Dragon King. You have, as we say, left the wrong and followed the right. You have been created anew by setting your mind on goodness. But if that's the case, why are you not going toward the west, but are returning eastward instead? Pilgrim laughed and said, That Tang monk knows nothing of human nature. There were a few ruffians who wanted to rob us, and I slew them all. But that Tang monk couldn't stop nagging me, telling me over and over just how wrong I was. Can you imagine old monkey putting up with that sort of tedium? I just left him. I was on my way back to my mountain when I decided to come visit you and ask for a cup of tea. Thanks for coming! Thanks for coming! Exclaimed the Dragon King. At that moment, the dragon's sons and grandsons presented them with aromatic tea. When they finished the tea, Pilgrim happened to turn around and saw hanging behind him on the wall a painting on the presentation of shoes at Yi Bridge. I was a monk for 2 hours, and honestly, that was probably 2 hours too much. What's all this about? Asked Pilgrim. The Dragon King replied, The incident depicted in the picture took place some time after you were born, and you may not recognize what it was. The threefold presentation of shoes at Yi Bridge. What do you mean by the threefold presentation of shoes? Asked Pilgrim. The immortal in the painting, said the Dragon King, was named Huang Shigang, and the young man kneeling in front of him was called Zhang Liang. Shigang was sitting on the Yi Bridge when suddenly one of his shoes fell off and dropped under the bridge. He asked Zhang Liang to fetch it, and the young man quickly did so, putting it back on for him as he knelt there. This happened 3 times. Since Zhang Liang did not display the slightest sign of pride or impatience, he won the affection of Shigang, who imparted to him that night a celestial manual and told him to support the house of Han. Afterwards, Zhang Liang made his plans sitting in a military tent to achieve victories 1,000 miles away. And you might be right, G. When the Han dynasty was established, he left his post and went into the mountains, where he followed the Taoist Master Red Pine and became enlightened in the ways of immortality. Great sage, if you do not accompany the Tang monk, if you are unwilling to exercise diligence or to accept instruction, you will remain a bogus immortal after all. Don't think that you'll ever require the fruits of truth. Wukong listened to these words and fell silent for some time. The Dragon King said, Great sage, you must make the decision yourself. It's unwise to allow momentary comfort to jeopardize your future. Not another word, said Wukong. Old Monkey will go back to accompany him, that's all. Delighted, the Dragon King said, If that's your wish, I dare not detain you. Instead, I ask the great sage to show his mercy at once and not permit his master to wait any longer. When Pilgrim heard this exhortation to leave, he bounded right out of the oceanic region. Mounting the clouds, he left the Dragon King. On his way, he ran right into the Bodhisattva of South Sea. Son Wukong, said the Bodhisattva, why did you not listen to me and accompany the Tang monk? What are you doing here? Pilgrim was so taken aback that he saluted her on top of the clouds. I am most grateful for the kind words of the Bodhisattva, he said. A monk from the Tang court did appear, lifted the seal, and saved my life. I became his disciple, but he blamed me for being too violent. I walked out on him for a little while, but I'm going back right now to accompany him. Go quickly, then, said the Bodhisattva, you bogus immortal, before you change your mind again. They finished speaking, and each went on his way. In a moment, our pilgrim saw the Tang monk sitting dejectedly at the side of the road. He approached him and said, Master, why are you not on the road? What are you doing here? Where have you been? Asked Tripitaka, looking up. Your absence has forced me to sit here and wait for you, not daring to walk or move. Pilgrim replied, I just went to the home of the old Dragon King at the Eastern Ocean to ask for some tea. Sounds like a no-big-deal situation, you know? Disciple, said Tripitaka, Those who have left the family should not lie. It was less than an hour since you left me, and you claim to have had tea at the home of the Dragon King. To tell you the truth, said Pilgrim, laughing, I know how to cloud somersault, and a single somersault will carry me 108,000 miles. That's why I can go and return in no time at all. Tripitaka said, Because I spoke to you a little sharply, you were offended and left me in a rage. Single somersault is a mouthful. Thank you, I feel a little bit better, by the way. You were offended and left me in a rage. With your ability, you could go and ask for some tea, but a person like me has no prospect but to sit here and endure hunger. Do you feel comfortable about that? Master, said Pilgrim, if you're hungry, I'll go beg some food for you. There's no need to beg, said Tripitaka, for I still have in my bag some dried goods given to me by the mother of Guardian Liu. Fetch me some water in that bowl. I'll eat some food, and we can start out again. Pilgrim went to untie the bag and found some biscuits made of unrefined flour, which he took out and handed over to the master. He then saw light glowing from his silk shirt and a flower cap inlaid with gold. Did you bring this garment and cap from the land of the east? He asked. I wore these in my childhood, said Tripitaka nonchalantly. If you wear the hat, you'll know how to recite scriptures without having to learn them. If you put on the garment, you'll know how to perform rituals without having to practice them. What a liar! Dear master, said Pilgrim, let me put them on. They may not fit you, said Tripitaka, but if they do, you may wear them. Pilgrim thereupon took off his old shirt made of white cloth and put on the silk shirt, which seemed to have been made especially for him. Then he put on the cap as well. When Tripitaka saw that he had put on the cap, he stopped eating the dried goods and began to recite the tight fillet spell silently. Oh, my head! Cried Pilgrim. It hurts! It hurts! The master went through the recitation several times without ceasing, and the pain was so intense that Pilgrim was rolling on the ground, his hands gripping the flower cap inlaid with gold. It's wrong to lie, said the monk immediately before lying. Fearing that he might break the gold fillet, Tripitaka stopped reciting and the pain ceased. Pilgrim touched his head with his hand and felt that it was tightly bound by a thin metal band. It could neither be pulled off nor ripped apart, for it had, as it were, taken root on his head. Taking the needle out of his ear, he rammed it inside the fillet and started prying madly. Afraid that he might break the fillet with his prying, Tripitaka started this recitation again, and Pilgrim's head began to hurt once more. It was so painful that he did cartwheels and somersaults. Man, the few times I've been in severe pain, I just wound up being an asshole. Pardon my French. His face and even his ears turned red, his eyes bulged, and his body grew weak. When the master saw his appearance, he was moved to break off his recitation, and the pain stopped as before. My head, said Pilgrim. The master has put a spell on it. I was just saying the tight fillet sutra, said Tripitaka. Since when did I put a spell on you? Recite it some more and see what happens, said Pilgrim. Tripitaka accordingly began to recite, and the Pilgrim immediately started to hurt. Stop! Stop! He cried. I hurt the moment you begin to recite. How do you explain that? Will you listen now to my instructions? Asked Tripitaka. Yes, I will, replied Pilgrim. And never be unruly again? I dare not, said Pilgrim. Or I'll torture you, apparently. Although he said that with his mouth, Pilgrim's mind was still devising evil. One wave of the needle, and it had the thickness of a rice bowl. He aimed it at the Tang monk and was about to slam it down on him. The priest was so startled that he went through the recitation 2 or 3 more times. Falling to the ground, the monkey threw away the iron rod and could not even raise his hands. Master, he said, I've learned my lesson. Stop! Please stop! How dare you be so reckless, said Tripitaka, that you should want to strike me? I wouldn't dare strike you, said Pilgrim, but let me ask you something. Who taught you this magic? It was an old woman, said Tripitaka, who imparted it to me a few moments ago. Growing very angry, Pilgrim said, "You needn't say anything more. The old woman had to be that Guan Shiyin. Why did she want me to suffer like this? I'm going to South Sea to beat her up." "If she had taught me this magic," said Tripitaka, she had to know it even before I did. If you go looking for her and she starts her recitation, won't you be dead?" Pilgrim saw the logic of this and dared not remove himself. Indeed, he had no alternative but to kneel in contrition and plead with Tripitaka, saying, "Master, this is her method of controlling me, allowing me no alternative but to follow you to the west. I'll not go to bother her, but you must not regard the spell as a plaything for frequent recitation either. I'm willing to accompany you without ever entertaining the thought of leaving again." "If that's so," said Tripitaka, "help me onto this horse and let's get going." At that point, Pilgrim gave up all thoughts of disobedience or rebellion. Eagerly, he tugged at his silk shirt and went to gather the luggage together. And they headed again toward the west. We do not know what is to be told after their departure. Let's listen to the explanation in the next chapter. Everyone is trying to stop me doing violent things, and that really makes me want to be violent. Yeah, and that's honestly what I was thinking. I mean, pain compliance is good for about 3 seconds of compliance. Chapter 15. At Serpent Coil Mountain, the gods give secret protection. At Eagle Grief Stream, actually I like the sound of that one. Eagle Grief Stream. At Eagle Grief Stream, the Horse of the Will is reined. Pardon me. We were telling you about Pilgrim, who ministered to the Tang monk faithfully as they advanced toward the west. They traveled for several days under the frigid sky of midwinter. A cold wind blew fiercely, and slippery icicles hung everywhere. They traversed a tortuous path of hanging gorges and cliffs, a parlous range tiered with summits and peaks. It just occurred to me if Monkey was at all intelligent, he'd wait till Monk was asleep and then bonk. But no. As Tripitaka was riding along on his horse, his ears caught the distant sound of a torrent. He turned to ask, "Wukong, where is that sound coming from?" Pilgrim said, "The name of this place, I recall, is Serpent Coil Mountain, and there is an Eagle Grief Stream in it. I suppose that's where it's coming from." Before they had finished their conversation, they arrived at the bank of the stream. Tripitaka reined in his horse and looked around. He saw a bubbling cold stream piercing through the clouds. Its limpid currents reddened by the sun. Its splatter in night rain stirs quiet vales. Its colors glow at dawn to fill the air. Wave after wave seems like flying chips of jade, their deep roar resonant as the clear wind. It flows to join one vast stretch of smoke and tide, where gulls are lost with egrets, but no fishers bide. Master and disciple were looking at the stream, when there was a loud splash in midstream and a dragon emerged. Churning the waters, it darted toward the bank and headed straight for the priest. Pilgrim was so startled that he threw away the luggage, hauled the master off his horse, and turned to flee with him at once. The dragon could not catch up with them, but it swallowed the white horse, harness and all, with one gulp before losing itself again in the water. Suddenly, dragon! Pilgrim carried his master to high ground and left the priest seated there. Then he returned to fetch the horse and the luggage. The load of bags was still there, but the horse was nowhere to be seen. Placing the luggage in front of his master, he said, "Master, there's not a trace of that cursed dragon which has frightened away our horse." "Disciple," said Tripitaka, "how can we find the horse again?" Relax, said Pilgrim. "Let me go and have a look." He whistled once and leaped up into the air. Shading his fiery eyes and diamond pupils with his hand, he peered in all 4 directions, but there was not the slightest trace of the horse. Dropping down from the clouds, he made his report, saying, "Master, our horse must have been eaten by that dragon. It's nowhere to be seen." Disciple, said Tripitaka, how big a mouth does that creature have that he can swallow a horse, harness and all? Harnesses make horses bigger, you know. It must have been frightened away instead. Probably still running loose somewhere in the valley. Please take another look. Pilgrim said, You really have no conception of my ability. This pair of eyes of mine in daylight can discern good and evil within 1,000 miles. At that distance, I can even see a dragonfly when it spreads its wings. How can I possibly miss something as big as a horse? If it has been eaten, said Tripitaka, how am I to proceed? Pity me! How can I walk through these 1,000 hills and 10,000 waters? When, as he spoke, tears began to fall like rain. When Pilgrim saw him crying, he became infuriated and began to shout, Master, stop behaving like a namby-pamby. Ooh, sit here. Just sit here. Let old Monkey find that creature and ask him to give back our horse. That'll be the end of the matter. Clutching at him, Tripitaka said, Disciple, where do you have to go to find him? Wouldn't I be hurt if he should appear from somewhere after you are gone? How would it be then if both man and horse should perish? At these words, Pilgrim became even more enraged. You're a weakling! Truly a weakling, he thundered. You want a horse to ride on, yet you won't let me go. You want to sit here and grow old, watching our bags? As he was yelling angrily like this, he heard someone calling out in midair, Great sage son, don't be annoyed, and stop crying, royal brother of Tang. We are a band of deities sent by the Bodhisattva Guanyin to give secret protection to the scripture pilgrim. Yeah, monk does seem a little bit fragile. Hearing this, the priest hastily bowed to the ground. Which divinities are you? Asked Pilgrim. Tell me your names so that I can check you off the roll. We are the 6 gods of darkness and the 6 gods of light, they said, the guardians of 5 points, the 4 sentinels, and the 18 protectors of monasteries. Every one of us waits upon you in rotation. Which one of you will begin today? Asked Pilgrim. The gods of darkness and light, they said, to be followed by the sentinels and the protectors. We guardians of 5 points, with the exception of the golden-headed guardian, will be here somewhere night and day. That being the case, said Pilgrim, those not on duty may retire, but the first 6 gods of darkness, the day sentinel, and the guardians should remain to protect my master. Let old Monkey go find that cursed dragon in the stream and ask him for our horse. The various deities obeyed. Only then did Tripitaka feel somewhat relieved as he sat on the cliff and told Pilgrim to be careful. Just don't worry, said Pilgrim. Dear Monkey King! He tightened the belt around his silk shirt, hitched up his tiger skin kilt, and went straight toward the gorge of the stream holding the golden-hooped iron rod. Standing halfway between cloud and fog, he cried loudly on top of the water, Lawless lizard! Return my horse! Return my horse! We now tell you about the dragon, who, having eaten the white horse of Tripitaka, was lying on the bottom of the stream, subduing his spirit and nourishing his nature. When he heard someone demanding the horse with abusive language, however, he could not restrain the fire leaping up in his heart, and he jumped up quickly. He's too good to walk. Churning the waves, he darted out of the water, saying, Who dares to insult me here with his big mouth? Pilgrim saw him and cried ferociously, Don't run away! Return my horse! Wielding his rod, he aimed at the beast's head and struck, while the dragon attacked with open jaws and dancing claws. The battle between the two of them before the stream was indeed fierce. You see, the dragon extending sharp claws, the monkey lifting his rod. The whiskers of this one hung like white jade threads. The eyes of that one shone like red gold lamps. The mouth beneath the whiskers of that one belched colored mists. The iron rod in the hands of this one moved like a fierce wind. That one was a cursed son who brought his parents grief. This one was a monster who defied the gods on high. Both had to suffer because of their plight. They now want to win, so each displays his might. Back and forth, Round and round, they fought for a long time, until the dragon grew weak and could fight no longer. He turned and darted back into the water, plunging to the bottom of the stream. He refused to come out again. The Monkey King heaped insult upon insult, but the dragon only pretended to be deaf. Pilgrim had little choice but to return to Tripitaka, saying, "Master, that monster made his appearance as a result of my tongue lashing. He fought with me for a long time before taking fright and running. He's hiding in the water now and refuses to come out again." "Do you know for certain that it was he who ate my horse?" asked Tripitaka. "Listen to the way you talk," said Pilgrim. "If he hadn't eaten it, would he be willing to face me and answer me like that?" "The time you killed the tiger," said Tripitaka, "you claimed that you had the ability to tame dragons and subdue tigers. Why can't you subdue this one today?" As the monkey had a rather low tolerance for any kind of provocation, this single taunt of Tripitaka so aroused him that he said, "Not one word more. Let me go and show him who is master." With great leaps, our Monkey King bounded right to the edge of the stream. Using his magic of overturning seas and rivers, he transformed the clear, limpid waters of the Eagle Grief stream into the muddy currents of the Yellow River during high tide. The cursed dragon in the depths of the stream could neither sit nor lie still a single moment. He thought to himself, "Just as blessing never repeats itself, so misfortune never comes singly. It has been barely a year since I escaped execution by heaven and came to bide my time here, but now I have to run into this wretched monster who is trying to do me harm. Look at him!" The more he thought about the matter, the more irritated he became. Unable to bear it any longer, he gritted his teeth and leaped out of the water, crying, "What kind of a monster are you, and where do you come from that you want to oppress me like this?" Never mind where I come from," said Pilgrim. "Just return the horse, and I'll spare your life." "I've swallowed your horse into my stomach," said the dragon, "so how am I to throw it up?" "What are you going to do if I can't return it to you?" Pilgrim said. "If you don't give back the horse, just watch for this rod. Only when your life becomes a payment for my horse will there be an end to this matter." The two of them again waged a bitter struggle below the mountain ridge. After a few rounds, however, the little dragon just could not hold out any longer. Shaking his body, he changed himself into a tiny water snake and wriggled into the marshes. The Monkey King came rushing up with his rod and parted the grass to look for the snake, but there was not a trace of it. He was so exasperated that the spirits of the 3 worms in his body exploded, and smoke began to appear from his 7 apertures. He recited a spell beginning with the letter Om, and summoned the local spirit and the mountain god of that region. The two of them knelt before him, saying, "The local spirit and the mountain god have come to see you." "Stick out your shanks," said Pilgrim, "and I'll greet each of you with 5 strokes of my rod just to relieve my feelings." "Great sage," they pleaded, "please be more lenient and allow your humble subjects to tell you something." "What have they got to say?" said Pilgrim. "The great sage has been in captivity for a long time," said the 2 deities, "and we had no knowledge of when you were released. That's why we have not been here to receive you, and we beg you to pardon us." "All right," said Pilgrim, "I won't hit you. But let me ask you something. Where did that monstrous dragon in the Eagle Grief stream come from, and why did he devour my master's white horse?" "We have never known the great sage to have a master," the 2 deities said, "for you have always been a first-rank primordial immortal who submits neither to heaven nor to earth. What do you mean by your master's horse?" Pilgrim said, "Of course you didn't know about this. Because of my contemptuous behavior toward heaven, I had to suffer for this 500 years. I was converted by the kindly persuasion of Bodhisattva Guanyin, who had the true monk from the Tang court rescue me. As his disciple, I was to follow him to the western heaven to seek scriptures from Buddha. We passed through this place, and my master's white horse was lost." "So that's how it is," said the 2 deities. "There has never been anything evil about this stream, except that it is both broad and deep, and its water is so clear that you can see right to the bottom. Large fowls, such as crows or eagles, are hesitant to fly over it, for when they see their own reflections in the clear water, they are prone to mistake them for other birds of their own flock and throw themselves into the stream. Hence the name, the Steep Eagle Grief Stream. Some years ago, on her way to look for a scripture pilgrim, Bodhisattva Guanyin rescued a dragon and sent him here. He was told to wait for the scripture pilgrim and was forbidden to do any evil or violence. Only when he is hungry is he permitted to come up to the banks to feed on birds or antelopes. How could he be so ignorant as to offend the great sage? Pilgrim said, at first he wanted to have a contest of strength with me and managed only a few bouts. Afterwards, he would not come out even when I abused him. Only when I used the magic of overturning seas and rivers and stirred up the water did he appear again, and then he still wanted to fight. He really had no idea how heavy my rod was. When he finally he couldn't hold out any longer, he changed himself into a water snake and wriggled into the grass. I rushed up there to look for him, but there was no trace of him. You may not know, great sage, said the local spirit, but there are countless holes and crevices along these banks through which the stream is connected with its many tributaries. The dragon could have crawled into any one of these, but there's no need for the great sage to get angry trying to look for him. If you want to capture this creature, all you need to do is ask Shi Yin to come here, then he'll certainly surrender. When Pilgrim heard this, he called the mountain god and the local spirit to go with him to see Tripitaka to give an account of what had happened. If you need to send for the Bodhisattva, said Tripitaka, when will you be able to return? How can this poor monk endure the cold and hunger? Blue, blue. You can't see it, but I'm kind of doing the fists scrunching my eyes, wiping away the tears gesture. He had hardly finished speaking when the golden-headed guardian called out from midair, Great sage, you needn't leave. Your humble subject will go fetch the Bodhisattva. Pilgrim was very pleased, shouting, Thanks for taking all that trouble. Go quickly. The guardian mounted the clouds swiftly and headed straight for South Sea. Pilgrim asked the mountain god and the local spirit to protect his master and the day sentinel to find some vegetarian food, while he himself went back to patrol the stream, and we shall say no more of that. He's not a very tough monk, is he? We now tell you about the golden-headed guardian, who mounted the clouds and soon arrived at South Sea. Descending from the auspicious light, he went straight to the purple bamboo grove of the Potalaka mountain, where he asked the various deities in golden armor and moksha to announce his arrival. The Bodhisattva said, What have you come for? The Tang monk lost his horse at the Eagle Grief Stream of the Serpent Coil Mountain, said the guardian, and the great sage son was placed in a terrible dilemma. He questioned the local deities, who claimed that a dragon sent by the Bodhisattva to that stream had eaten it. The great sage, therefore, sent me to request the Bodhisattva to go and subdue that cursed dragon, that he might get back his horse. Hearing this, the Bodhisattva said, That creature was originally the son of Aorun of the Western Ocean, because in his carelessness he set fire to the palace and destroyed the luminous pearls hanging there. His father accused him of subversion, and he was condemned to die by the heavenly tribunal. It was I who personally sought pardon from the Jade Emperor for him, so that he might serve as a means of transportation for the Tang monk. I can't understand how he could swallow the monk's horse instead, but if that's what happened, I'll have to get over there myself. I kind of think, actually, the purpose of the monk is to be the princess. And the princess always needs rescuing. The Bodhisattva left her lotus platform and went out of the divine cave. Mounting the auspicious luminosity with the guardian, she crossed the South Sea. We have a testimonial poem that says, Buddha proclaimed the Tripitaka Supreme, which the goddess declared throughout Chang'an. Those great wondrous truths could reach heaven and earth. Those wise, true words could save the spirits damned. They caused Gold Cicada to cast again his shell. They moved Xuanzang to mend his ways anew. By blocking his path at Eagle Grief Stream, a dragon prince in horse form returns to the real. I'm sorry, monkey. The monk is in another castle. The Bodhisattva and the Guardian soon arrived at the Serpent Coil Mountain. They stopped the hollowed clouds in midair and saw Pilgrim's son down below shouting abuses at the bank of the stream. You razzer frazzer. It just amuses me. The Bodhisattva asked the Guardian to fetch him. Lowering his clouds, the Guardian went past Tripitaka and headed straight for the edge of the stream, saying to Pilgrim, "The Bodhisattva has arrived." When Pilgrim heard this, he jumped quickly into the air and yelled at her, "You, so-called teacher of the 7 Buddhas and the founder of the Faith of Mercy, why did you have to use your tricks to harm me?" "You impudent stableman, ignorant red buttocks," said the Bodhisattva. "I went to considerable effort to find a scripture pilgrim whom I carefully instructed to save your life. Instead of thanking me, you are finding fault with me." "You saved me all right," said Pilgrim. "If you truly wanted to deliver me, you should have allowed me to have a little fun with no strings attached. When you met me the other day above the ocean, you could have chastened me with a few words, telling me to serve the Tang monk with diligence, and that would have been enough. Why did you have to also give him a flower cap and have him deceive me into wearing it that I would suffer? Now the fillet has taken root on old monkey's head, and you even taught him the so-called tight fillet spell, which he recites again and again, causing endless pain in my head. You haven't harmed me indeed." The Bodhisattva laughed and said, "Oh, monkey, you are neither attentive to admonition nor willing to seek the fruit of truth. If you are not restrained like this, you'll probably mock the authority of heaven again without regard for good or ill. If you create troubles as you did before, who will be able to control you? It's only through this bit of adversity that you will be willing to enter our gate of yoga." "All right," said Pilgrim. "I'll consider the matter my hard luck. But why did you take that condemned dragon and send him here so that he'd become a spirit and swallow my master's horse? It's your fault, you know, if you allow an evildoer to perpetrate his villainies some more." "I went personally to plead with the Jade Emperor," said the Bodhisattva, "to have the dragon stationed here so that he could serve as a means of transportation for the scripture pilgrim. Those mortal horses from the land of the East, do you think that they could walk through 10,000 waters and 1,000 hills? How could they possibly hope to reach the Spirit Mountain, the land of Buddha? Only a dragon horse could possibly make that journey." "But right now, he's so terribly afraid of me," said Pilgrim, "that he refuses to come out of his hiding place. What can we do?" The Bodhisattva said to the Guardian, "Go to the edge of the stream and say, 'Come out, third Prince Jade Dragon of the Dragon King Aelrun. The Bodhisattva from South Sea is here.' He'll come out then." The Guardian went at once to the edge of the stream and called out twice. Churning the waters and leaping across the waves, the little dragon appeared and changed at once into the form of a man. He stepped on the clouds and rose up into the air. Saluting the Bodhisattva, he said, "I thank the Bodhisattva again for saving my life. I've waited here a long time, but I've heard no news of the scripture pilgrim." Pointing to Pilgrim, the Bodhisattva said, "Isn't he the eldest disciple of the scripture pilgrim?" When he saw him, the little dragon said, "Bodhisattva, he's my adversary. I was hungry yesterday and ate his horse. We fought over that, but he took advantage of his superior strength and defeated me. In fact, he so abused me that I dare not show myself again, but he has never mentioned a word about scripture seeking." "You didn't bother to ask my name," said Pilgrim. "How did you expect me to tell you anything?" The little dragon said, "Didn't I ask you, what kind of a monster are you and where do you come from? But all you did was shout, 'Never mind where I come from, just return my horse.' Since when did you utter even half the word Tang?" "That monkey," said Bodhisattva, "is always relying on his own abilities. When has he ever given any credit to other people? When you set off this time, remember that there are others who will join you. So when they ask you, by all means mention first the matter of scripture seeking. They will submit to you without causing you further trouble." Pilgrim received this word of counsel amiably. The Bodhisattva went up to the little dragon and plucked off the shining pearls hanging around his neck. She then dipped her willow branch into the sweet dew in her vase and sprinkled it all over his body. Blowing a mouthful of magic breath on him, she cried, "Change!" The dragon at once changed into a horse with hair of exactly the same color and quality as that of the horse he had swallowed. The Bodhisattva then told him, "You must overcome with utmost diligence all the cursed barriers. When your merit is achieved, you will no longer be an ordinary dragon. You will acquire the true fruit of a golden body." Holding the bit in his mouth, the little dragon humbly accepted the instruction. The Bodhisattva told Wukong to lead him to Tripitaka, saying, "I'm returning across the ocean." Pilgrim took hold of her and refused to let go, saying, "I'm not going on. I'm not going on. The road to the west is so treacherous. If I have to accompany this mortal monk, when will I ever get there? If I have to endure all these miseries, I may well lose my life. What sort of merit do you think I'll achieve? I'm not going. I'm not going." "In years past, before you reached the way of humanity," said the Bodhisattva, "you were most eager to seek enlightenment. Now that you have been delivered from the chastisement of heaven, how could you become slothful again? The truth of nirvana in our teaching can never be realized without faith and perseverance. If on your journey you should come across any danger that threatens your life, I give you permission to call on heaven, and heaven will respond. To call on earth, and earth will prove efficacious. In the event of extreme difficulty, I myself will come to rescue you. Come closer, and I shall endow you with one more means of power." Plucking 3 leaves from her willow branch, the Bodhisattva placed them at the back of Pilgrim's head, crying, "Change!" They changed at once into 3 hairs with life-saving power. She said to him, "When you find yourself in a helpless and hopeless situation, you may use these according to your needs, and they will deliver you from your particular affliction." After Pilgrim had heard all these kind words, he thanked the Bodhisattva of great mercy and compassion. With scented wind and colored mists swirling around her, the Bodhisattva returned to Potalaka. Lowering the direction of his cloud, Pilgrim tugged at the mane of the horse and led him to Tripitaka, saying, "Master, we have a horse." Highly pleased by what he saw, Tripitaka said, "Disciple, how is it that the horse has grown a little fatter and stronger than before? Where did you find him?" "Master, you are still dreaming," said Pilgrim. "Just now the golden-headed guardian managed to bring the Bodhisattva here, and she transformed the dragon of the stream into our white horse. Except for the missing harness, the color and hair are all the same, and Old Monkey has pulled him here." "Where is the Bodhisattva?" asked Tripitaka, greatly surprised. "Let me go and thank her." "By this time," said Pilgrim, "the Bodhisattva has probably arrived at South Sea. There's no need to bother about that." Picking up a few pinches of earth with his fingers and scattering them like incense, Tripitaka bowed reverently toward the south. He then got up and prepared to leave again with Pilgrim. Having dismissed the mountain god and the local spirit, and given instructions to the guardians and the sentinels, Pilgrim asked his master to mount. Tripitaka said, "How can I ride a horse without a harness? Oh, this guy. Let's find a boat to cross the stream, and then we can decide what to do." "This master of mine is truly impractical," said Pilgrim. "In the wilds of this mountain, where will you find a boat? Since the horse has lived here for a long time, he must know the water's condition. Just ride him like a boat, and we'll cross over." Tripitaka had no choice but to follow his suggestion and climbed onto the bare-backed horse. Pilgrim took up the luggage, and they arrived at the edge of the stream. Then they saw an old fisherman punting downstream toward them in an old wooden raft. When Pilgrim caught sight of him, he waved his hands and called out, "Old fisherman, come here, come here. We come from the land of the East to seek scriptures. Not seep them. It's difficult for my master to cross, so please take us over." Monkey has more than had enough, that's for sure. Hearing these words, the fisherman quickly punted the raft up to the bank. Asking his master to dismount, Pilgrim helped Tripitaka onto the raft before he embarked the horse and the luggage. That old fisher punted the raft away, and like an arrow in the wind, they crossed the steep Eagle Grief stream swiftly and landed on the western shore. Tripitaka told Pilgrim to untie the bag and take out a few tanged pennies to give to the old fisherman. With a shove of his pole, the old fisherman pulled away, saying, "I don't want any money." He drifted downstream and soon disappeared from sight. Feeling very much obliged, Tripitaka kept folding his hands to express his gratitude. "Master," said Pilgrim, "you needn't be so solicitous. Don't you recognize him? He is the water god of this stream. Since he didn't come to pay his respects to Old Monkey, he was about to get a beating." "Oh, it's enough that he is now spared from that. Would he dare take any money?" I'm scrolling now. See, scroll. Is it scrolling now? The master only half believed him when he climbed up onto the barebacked horse once again. Following Pilgrim, he went up to the main road and set off again toward the west. It would be like this that they, through the vast thusness, reached the other shore, and climb with hearts unfeigned the spirit mount. Do a Control F5 and maybe do a force refresh or something. Give that a try. Or make sure you haven't paused the stream. I don't know. Master and disciple journeyed on, and soon the fiery sun sank westward as the sky gradually darkened. You see, clouds hazy and aimless. A mountain moon dim and gloomy. The sky, all frosty, builds the cold. Howling wind around cuts through you. One bird is lost midst the pale, wide sandbars, as twilight glows where the distant hills are low. 1,000 trees roar in sparse woods. One ape cries on a barren peak. No traveler is seen on this long road, when boats from afar return for the night. As hang on. Yeah, who knows, but I'm glad you solved it. Hooray. As Tripitaka, riding his horse, peered into the distance, he suddenly saw something like a hamlet beside the road. "Wukong," he said, "there's a house ahead of us. Let's ask for lodging there and travel again tomorrow." Raising his head to take a look, Pilgrim said, "Master, it's no ordinary house." "Why not?" said Tripitaka. "If it were an ordinary house," said Pilgrim, "there would be no flying fishes or reclining beasts decorating the ridge of its roof. That must be a temple or an abbey." While they were speaking, master and disciple arrived at the gate of the building. Dismounting, Tripitaka saw on top of the gate 3 large characters. "Lisha Shrine." They walked inside, where they were met by an old man with some beads hanging around his neck. He came forward with hands folded, saying, "Master, please take a seat." Tripitaka hastily returned his salutation, and then went to the main hall to bow to the holy images. The old man called a youth to serve tea, after which Tripitaka asked him, why is this shrine named Lisha?" The old man said, "This region belongs to the Hamil kingdom of the western barbarians. There is a village behind the shrine, which was built from the piety of all its families. The Li refers to the land owned by the whole village, and the Shi is the god of the soil." I guess it would be She, considered how I pronounced it, so apologies. "During the days of spring sowing, summer plowing, autumn harvesting, and winter storing, each of the families would bring the 3 beasts, flowers, and fruits to sacrifice at the shrine, so that they might be blessed with good luck in all 4 seasons, a rich harvest of the 5 grains, and prosperity in raising the 6 domestic creatures." When Tripitaka heard these words, he nodded his head to show his approval, saying, "This is truly like the proverb. Even 3 miles from home, there are customs entirely distinct. The families in our region do not practice such good works." Then the old man asked, "Where is the honorable home of the master?" "Your poor monk," said Tripitaka, "happens to have been sent by the royal decree from the great Tang nation in the east to go seek scriptures from Buddha in the western heaven. It was getting rather late when I passed your esteemed edifice. I therefore came to your holy shrine to ask for a night's lodging. I'll leave as soon as it gets light." The old man was delighted and kept saying, "Welcome! Welcome!" He called the youth again to prepare a meal, which Tripitaka ate with gratitude. So rice, millet, wheat, barley, I don't know, and corn nuts. Corn nuts! I should like it. As usual, Pilgrim was extremely observant. Noticing a rope for hanging laundry tied under the eaves, he walked over to it and pulled at it until it snapped in two. He then used the piece of rope to tie up the horse. "Where did you steal this horse?" asked the old man, laughing. "Old man," said Pilgrim angrily, "watch what you are saying. We are holy monks going to worship Buddha. How could we steal horses?" "If you didn't steal it," laughed the old man, why is there no saddle or rein, so that you have to rip up my clothesline?" "Popcorn!" "This rascal is always so impulsive," said Tripitaka apologetically. "If you wanted to tie up a horse, why didn't you ask the old gentleman properly for a rope? Why did you have to rip up his clothesline? Sir, please don't be angry. Our horse, to tell you the truth, is not a stolen one. When we approached the Eagle Grief stream yesterday from the east, I had a white horse complete with harness. Little did we anticipate that there was a condemned dragon in the stream who had become a spirit, who swallowed my horse in one gulp, harness and all. Fortunately, my disciple has some talents, and he was able to bring the Bodhisattva Guan Yin to the stream to subdue the dragon. She told him to assume the form of my original white horse, so that he could carry me to worship Buddha in the Western Heaven. It has barely been 1 day since we crossed the stream and arrived at your holy shrine. We haven't had time to look for a harness." Ooh. So taking a look at that. Okay. Ah. It's kind of like in North America, we have the three sisters, which is corn, squash, and I forgot the third one now. That's fine. Gosh, it's really bugging me what the third sister is. But anyway. It's sort of like the three crops kind of working together, though. Like the third one actually kind of vines its way up the corn. Okay. "Master, you needn't worry," said the old man. "An old man like me loves to tease, but I had no idea your esteemed disciple was so serious about everything. When I was young, I had a little money, and I too loved to ride. But over the years, I had my share of misfortunes. Deaths in the family and fires in the household have not left me much. Thus I am reduced to being a caretaker here in the shrine, looking after the fires and incense, and dependent on the goodwill of the patrons in the village back there for a living. I still have in my possession a harness that I have always cherished, and that even in this poverty I couldn't bear to sell. But since hearing your story, how even the Bodhisattva delivered the divine dragon and made him change into a horse to carry you, I feel that I must not withhold from giving either. I shall bring the harness tomorrow and present it to the master, who, I hope, will be pleased to accept it." When Tripitaka heard this, he thanked him repeatedly. Before long, the youth brought in the evening meal, after which lamps were lit and the beds prepared. Everyone then retired. Yeah, I hadn't thought about beans. Or soy for that matter. But popcorn, I think, is a good answer. Next morning, Pilgrim arose and said, "Master, that old caretaker promised last night to give us the harness. Ask him for it. Don't spare him." He had hardly finished speaking when the old man came in with a saddle, together with pads, reins, and the like. Not a single item needed for riding a horse was lacking. He set them down in the corridor, saying, "Master, I am presenting you with this harness." When Tripitaka saw it, he accepted it with delight and asked Pilgrim to try the saddle on the horse. Going forward, Pilgrim took up the accoutrements and examined them piece by piece. They were indeed some magnificent articles. for which we have a testimonial poem. The poem says, it's Beans, thank you. The carved saddle shines with studs of silver stars. The precious seat glows with bright threads of gold. The pads are stacks of fine-spun woolen quilts. The reins are 3 bands of purple cords of silk. The bridal's, leather straps are shaped like flowers. The flaps have gold-etched forms of dancing beasts. The rings and bit are made of finest steel. Waterproof tassels dangle on both sides. Well, all I can tell you about the 3 sisters is that the natives, the people who lived here before North America got colonized, used to do that. And if you dig into it, the beans are there to fix nitrogen and put it in the soil. The squash primarily crowd out anything else that might grow, and the corn, being a tall plant, gives support to the beans. So it winds up being quite synergistic. There might be some issue with it, but, it's just a little piece of mythology, if you will. Secretly pleased, Pilgrim put the saddle on the back of the horse, and it seemed to have been made to measure. Tripitaka bowed to thank the old man, who hastily raised him up, saying, "It's nothing. Why do you need to thank me for?" The old man did not ask them to stay any longer. Instead, he urged Tripitaka to mount. The priest came out of the gate and climbed into the saddle, while Pilgrim followed, hauling the luggage. The old man then took a whip out from his sleeve, with a handle of rattan wrapped in strips of leather, and the strap knitted with cords made of tiger ligaments. Wah! He stood by the side of the road and presented it with hands uplifted, saying, "Holy monk, I have a whip here that I may as well give you." Tripitaka accepted it on his horse, saying, "Thanks for your donation! Thanks for your donation!" Even as he was saying this, the old man vanished. The priest turned around to look at the Lisha shrine, but it had become just a piece of level ground. From the sky came a voice saying, "Holy monk, I'm sorry not to have given you a better reception. I am the local spirit of Potalaka Mountain, who was sent by the Bodhisattva to present you with the harness. You too must journey to the west with all diligence. Do not be slothful in any movement." Tripitaka was so startled that he fell off his horse and bowed toward the sky, saying, "Your disciple is of fleshly eyes and mortal stock, and he does not recognize the holy visage of the deity. Please forgive me. I beseech you to convey my gratitude to the Bodhisattva." Look at him. All he could do was kowtow towards the sky without bothering to count how many times. By the side of the road, the great sage son reeled with laughter. The handsome monkey king broke up with hilarity. He came up and tugged at his master, saying, "Master, get up. He is long gone. He can't hear you, nor can he see your kowtowing. Why keep up this adoration?" "Disciple," said the priest, "when I kowtowed like that, all you could do was stand snickering by the side of the road, with not even a bow. Why?" "You wouldn't know, would you?" said Pilgrim. "For playing a game of hide-and-seek like that with us, he really deserves a beating. But for the sake of the Bodhisattva, I'll spare him, and that's something already. You think he dares accept a bow from Old Monkey? Old Monkey has been a hero since his youth, and he doesn't know how to bow to people. Even when I saw the Jade Emperor and Laozi, I just gave them my greeting, and that's all." "Blasphemy," said Tripitaka. "Stop this idle talk. Let's get going without further delay." So the priest got up and prepared to set off again toward the west. After leaving that place, they had a peaceful journey for 2 months, for all they met were barbarians, Muslims, tigers, wolves, and leopards. I'm a little uncomfortable with that one. Oh dear. Time went by swiftly, and it was again early spring. You could see jade green, gilding the mountain forest, and green sprouts of grass appearing. The plum blossoms were all fallen, and the willow leaves gently budding. As master and disciple were admiring this scenery of spring, they saw the sun sinking westward again. Reining the horse, Tripitaka peered into the distance and saw at the fold of the hill the shadow of buildings and the dark silhouette of towers. "Wukong," said Tripitaka, "look at the buildings over there." "What sort of place is that?" Stretching his neck to look, Pilgrim said, "It has to be either a temple or a monastery. Let's move along and ask for lodging over there." Tripitaka was glad to follow this suggestion and urged his dragon horse forward. We do not know what took place thereafter. Let's listen to the explanation in the next chapter.